All right, we're about to dive into a fair value analysis of a crypto that's been around for a while, DigiByte. But here's the kicker. This isn't just any old analysis. Someone has put a very specific, and let's just say very ambitious price target on it.
And there it is, $3.32. The analysis we're digging into concludes this is the fair value for a single DigiByte coin. Now, if you've been following its price at all, you know that number, well, it needs some serious explaining.
So that's the big question, right? How on earth do you get to a number that specific and that high? What's the math? What are the factors that could possibly lead to that kind of conclusion? Let's unpack this thing and see what's under the hood.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with a grading system that spat out that big number. Then we'll look at DigiByte's report card, what it's good at, and where it's not so good. And finally, we'll check out the path forward that the analysis suggests.
Okay, so first things first. How do you even begin to grade a cryptocurrency's value? Well, the model this analysis uses is built on a few key pillars, but one of them, well, it carries almost all the weight. So here it is, the secret sauce. The model looks at 5 main things: network power, some transaction metrics, developers, but just look at that giant purple slice. I mean, it's not even close. A massive 70% of the entire valuation comes down to just one thing: adoption. I really want to hammer this point home. This entire $3 valuation, it lives or dies by this one metric. For the sake of this model, almost nothing else matters as much as how many people are actually using the network. Adoption is the whole ballgame. All right, with that greeting system in our back pocket, let's crack open DigiByte's report card. And you know what? Let's start with the good stuff. Where is this project really shining? First up is this metric called the Network Power Score, or NPS. You can basically think of it as a technical grade for the blockchain itself. You know, how secure is it? How decentralized? How well does it run? DigiByte gets a 10.72 out of 100 here. Now, I know what you're thinking. That doesn't sound like a chart-topping score, but the analysis actually frames it as a really solid technical foundation. This score reflects DigiByte's long-standing strengths in security and decentralization. In short, the thing is built like a tank. Another major strength? Just pure network activity. We're talking about roughly 61 million transactions processed on the blockchain every single year. That is a seriously healthy number, and it's a clear signal this network isn't just a ghost town. People are really, actually using it. And you know, the report puts it really well. It says that this level of activity shows DigiByte's mission for everyday use is evident. The big takeaway here is that this probably isn't just speculators flipping coins. This looks like real grassroots activity, people making transfers because it's useful. And there's one more advantage, and it's kind of the silent killer: inflation. With a rate of just 1.2%, DigiByte has an incredibly stable and predictable supply. I mean, in a crypto world filled with super high inflation assets, this is a huge strength. It means the value of each coin isn't constantly getting watered down. Okay, so a solid technical base and real user activity. That's the good news. But now we've got to flip the report card over and look at the areas where, well, let's just say there's some serious room for improvement. And wow, this right here, this is the big one, the single biggest hurdle. According to the analysis, DigiByte has about 1.14 million users, okay? But the benchmark for successful mainstream network, 80 million. Just let that sink in for a second. The scale of that gap is absolutely enormous. And let's connect this right back to our grading system. Because adoption has that whopping 70% weight, this single weakness just crushes the overall fair value calculation. This is the #1 reason for that huge disconnect between its price today and that potential 3.32 valuation. The developer gap is just as stark. You need builders to have a thriving ecosystem, right? Well, the analysis counts about 57 active developers for DigiByte, compared to a benchmark of over 900. It's that classic chicken and egg problem. Without more developers, it's hard to build the apps that attract all those new users. And finally, there's transaction value. So remember all those millions of transactions? Sounds great, but the total monetary value flowing through the network is a tiny, tiny fraction of the benchmark. This paints a really clear picture. DigiByte is being used, but it's for small stuff, micropayments, not for large-scale economic settlement. So the picture is crystal clear. Strong technology, but really weak market penetration. The analysis doesn't just diagnose the problem, though. It also prescribes a potential cure.
So let's take a look at the path forward. The report lays out 3 key strategic moves. The first one is the most obvious and the most critical, a relentless focus on growing adoption. I mean, just hitting a 10 million user target would dramatically lift the fair value. Second, boost the value of each transaction by exploring new areas like DeFi or remittances. And third, leverage that passionate community to move beyond just grassroots efforts and land some bigger, more strategic partnerships.
You know, this table really sums up the whole story, doesn't it? The core tension of this entire analysis. DigiByte's strengths are technical. The network is strong, people use it a lot. Its weaknesses are commercial, the scale of adoption, the value of the transactions. And as we know from the model, those weaknesses are what carry the most weight. So if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. The analysis presents DigiByte as an otherwise strong puzzle, but with 2 massive, glaring pieces missing: mass adoption and significant economic throughput.
So in the end, this analysis provides a roadmap and a destination, $3.32. But a map isn't the journey. With its potential and its problems laid out so clearly, the real question left is, what will it actually take for the DigiByte ecosystem to close that gap?